but no one would ever think that they know each other. They pretend that they don't. Then they both start working where you're working and start saying horrible things about you or about your work to the supervisor. And then the entire time they just pretend that they never knew each other. They don't have a motive for saying anything bad. I mean, I'm not saying that that happened specifically in that way. I'm just saying it's not that hard to do. And it has been done. You know, I mean, people have done that kind of thing before. So one of the women, my immediate supervisor, I got along with, she never had anything bad to say about me, but then the supervisor above her, and she seemed to be a nice Canadian person, somebody who was decent, and then the supervisor above her, however, was a man who was connected to all of these horrible people in Wenatchee that had done all these and concealed all these crimes against me and my son. So as long as she was there and was the person hiring me and was sort of the buffer, I didn't have a problem. But when she left the hotel and took a different job, as soon as she left, I had major problems. Because then it was just me and the United States Wenatchee affiliated man. And right about that time, I met somebody else, and I believe that he's connected to Border Patrol and to police. And possibly some kind of a prostitution ring that services Border Patrol, Homeland Security, and police. And I got an idea about this prostitution thing when I met a woman who pretty much looked and sounded and talked like that's what she did. But she wasn't the type of prostitute that you think of like that you see in movies. She's basically, I don't know how to describe it, like a high class, I don't want to say high class, but highly sophisticated form of a one-person madam. I mean, she's more like, had more authority than like a prostitute might. But, and she clearly had a lot more money than your typical prostitute. She had, for example, she's very, very pretty. She has a very good figure. She has an entire apartment that is decorated and arranged in nice and expensive materials. Very artistic, very glamorous and beautiful. And you wouldn't really expect to find that, maybe, from the outside. And then, I mean, maybe she wasn't, but I saw her get an email that pretty much sounded like somebody was asking if she was available in that way. So I don't know if police just decided that they wanted to have a woman here and there where they could get service, they could be serviced themselves, and the Homeland Security, I'm sure the Homeland Security regularly entertains that. So all I know is that one day I met this one individual at a bar, and I believe at the time I didn't really have a place. I was still in between places. Or I think I was told to leave right about the time that I met him. It's just sort of like some of these people knew each other, and then they would decide together when they wanted me to go from one place to the next. So basically it looked like I was hopping around from one place to the next. I'm not talking about sexually, but I mean just having a place to stay. And yet it had nothing to do with me and what I wanted to do or what I would have done. I was basically forced into this position of having zero money, no money, no insurance, health insurance, and having been suddenly thrust into this displaced position after I'd been asking for political asylum. And my parents weren't able to help out or send me money or have me come back home or anything like that. I was basically completely on my own with nothing and forced to be at the mercy of total strangers while the United States government tortured me and ran a brothel for children by taking my son from me. This country has committed human trafficking because they not only kidnapped my son, what they've done has involved money. They sold us. I mean, since when does the United States government sell people and sell their own citizens out? Must have been a pretty good sum of money. And then they basically just keep torturing you, and they keep accruing their interest. I mean, how many people pay dividends to those who torture us? We really support what you're doing. We're going to give you some more donations. Here's some more money for your university. You put another implant into her tooth, we're going to give you a couple million. And here's something nice for you and your husband too. Would you like to be president of this university now? People who were connected to what was done to me were getting raises, huge raises. They were getting promoted to huge positions. And those who wanted to pay dividends towards torturing me, they were giving donations to universities, which was kind of a nice way to launder money, because it looked like it was going to an organization, not to a person. They were giving money to individuals, but more secretly. And that's what they're still doing. They're still paying dividends and rewarding those who continue to torture me and my son and my family. So what kind of incentive do people who do that, what kind of incentive do they have to stop? Oh, well, maybe if somebody's getting sex out of me, they might stop. That's the incentive. That's the incentive that they had. And that was the only incentive that they had. So basically, if I was having sex with somebody later that was connected to them, to their group, then they decided they wouldn't torture me. That's how I got freedom, basically, according to them. I mean, I never have ever viewed myself as a slave, and I've never viewed myself as having to have sex with somebody in order to not be tortured. I never did that with the idea that, well, I might have to do this or I'll be tortured. No, I just look back on it and I look at the times when I was tortured and when I wasn't, and I realize the only time they didn't torture me is when I was sleeping with the Department of State person who also worked with the CIA and the FBI. So, what else would anyone think? That, I mean, they don't torture me if I'm with him, but otherwise they do. So I met this person, as I say, while I was still at this hostel place, and I was working as a housekeeper, and then that job started to come to an end because people in Wenatchee, I told CPS where I was working, and all of a sudden they contacted that place, and he was connected to Wenatchee, and he fired me. He said he had to let me go. And a couple of the housekeepers who started to work there around the time that I was working there, they weren't really nice people. And I had a feeling that one or both of them was just working there to try to say bad things about me. So then I was reading a book at a bar and just trying to network again, because you can't go to a restaurant. I never went to bars. I wasn't a big drinker. But in that kind of a position, you don't go to a Sherry's and start talking to strangers. And church isn't open 24, hours a day, Monday through Friday or Monday through Sunday. It's not like you go in and strike up conversation with a bunch of people you never knew at church on any given day of the week. I mean, church is one day a week. And it's not like a lot of delis or other seafood restaurants. You don't get a table and then ask the table across from you, hey, how are you guys doing tonight? Or, I just had to say, I really love your scarf, or what are you reading? That looks like a really great drink. What is it? Nobody's going to do that. You cannot strike up a conversation in a normal restaurant. And like I said, church is not open every day of the week, because if it had been, I would have been in church every day of the week and not in the bar at night, trying to network with people and find out who might have some ideas or resources of where I could go for help or assistance. And most of my time I was on the computer emailing lawyers. And when I went to the bar, I didn't always drink. I mean, often I had just water. And other times if someone bought me a drink, I might have a half glass of wine or a glass of wine, or I might have one drink. But I wasn't drinking every time I went to the bar. I was trying to network, and I was sometimes trying to use Wi-Fi. And also, they didn't have a lot of cafes that had Wi-Fi. They did have one that I used. But basically, if I got slandered in one area or by one person, they basically just started to steamroll that through the entire town and community. And I remember one time when I was always nice at this one cafe, never caused a problem there. I used the Wi-Fi and that was it, and I bought some things from them. And they basically chased me, they basically banned me from their coffee house. And they did it at the same time that a United States postal worker came in and started making fun of a song that I had been singing at the hotel about that apple bottom jeans song. The one that's like, and boots with the fur. Basically, I sang that one just joking around with my son in one of the state CPS visits that I had just had with my son when I took a Greyhound bus back and forth. And all of a sudden I've got a United States post office woman coming into that Blaine coffee house and looking at me and smirking and laughing and going, apple bottom jeans, and boots with the fur. It wasn't like she just had the song in her mind and she just was singing this song absent-mindedly to herself. This United States post office woman came right up to me, looked me in the eye, and started smirking like sarcastically, and started repeating the song that I had sung in a CPS visit in Wenatchee when my son was there, and I was trying to make him laugh. So here I was in this visit singing a song, trying to make my son laugh and trying to be cheerful. And that woman comes over after that it happened. She's then getting into an area where she knew I was, and then she's indicating that she knows that that I sang that song to my son in the CPS visit. So why would this United States post office worker have the idea to come over and harass me with that.